because I'm
Yes.
excited about tonight's Thursday Night Live.
Yes, I am too.
The title for tonight is Marriage, Great Divorce, and the Contradiction.
Hmm.
What no one talks about in the home, in the heart, and from the pulpit. So
Mm,
that sounds deep in itself.
yes. Especially
And
that part about in the pulpit.
yes, yes. And I did a post a while back,
Uh huh.
and I was talking about marriage, and then the season that I'm in, but not only that, but the season that I see a lot of other women that are in.
Hmm.
And it's like you've been all these things in your marriage, and not just in your marriage, but just in your life in general too. But you get to the point where it's like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm tired of holding everything together. And who am I now in this season? And I think the biggest question that I said in that post, which was something I needed to figure out for myself, was, do I want to do this for another 20, 30 years? Right. Um,
Mm,
and I
that's a
think,
hard question.
yes, yes, it is. Because you have that history, that familiarity, what you built with this person,
Yep.
the connection that you once had. And for me in this season, like I've always been transparent whenever I post anything, whenever we do our lives.
Hmm. You
And
have been.
and I share because I know I'm not the only one,
Hmm.
you know, and I think it's important that we share and we communicate and we talk, because we don't know what the next person is going through, but just
Right.
sharing could help. That's why I love what we do, and I think that these topics are so important and good to have as women
Hmm.
in this midlife.
I agree
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
I think they're good discussions, especially the part where you just mentioned about the from the pulpit. That kind of hit home with me, thinking how these are things that we don't talk about, and we don't talk about in the places where it should be safe enough for us to talk about it. And one of those places for me would be church.
yeah.
Now, that
So
question you pose, do I want to live the next 30 years of my life like this? Ouch.
yes, yes. So thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all who are passing through. Stay with us for a little while. Listen a little bit, give your input. If you have some suggestions or something you want to share that you've been through, please, let us know. But if you're still here, I want you to put some hearts if you feel that way. If you're in a marriage and you're wondering, can I really do this for the next 30 years,
Yep.
or whatever, can I continue on feeling the way that I'm feeling in my
Uh-huh.
marriage, in my relationship?
Uh-huh.
So give us some hearts. If you feel led to give us a comment and let us know what you're thinking. All right, all right. So we mentioned the from the pulpit
Hmm.
part.
Yes.
So I know you good with the scriptures and
Hmm.
connecting things, and you know from that perspective, when I say you're feeling heavy and it's like, I don't know if I can do this much longer, what scripture comes to mind, or what was thrown at you?
What God put together, let no man put asunder. That
Yeah.
is the scripture that immediately comes to mind when people are sharing about how they are in their marriages, and they're looking at it. They've been in it 10, 20 years, and they're saying, I don't know if I can do this. And that scripture is what comes to mind. What God has put together, let no man put asunder. I think I had
Mm,
flipped it, but yeah, that's what comes to mind.
yeah. Yeah. I
And the fact that a lot of the people who have come to church for counseling and they're speaking to their pastor, a lot of them, they're exhausted. And I think they're just not exhausted about what's going on in their marriage. I think they're exhausted with how the church has told them their marriage needs to be.
Ooh, okay, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
They've told them that this what it means to be in a godly marriage. We are already drilled, or what's drilled in our head is that you know the thought that a marriage is between a man and a woman, a marriage is for life, is forever, and all of these things are being played in our head when we go to church and not just go to church, but go there for counseling.
yeah. Yeah, those of you who have joined and passing by, we're talking about marriage, the great divorce, the contradictions, and what no one talks about. What women are going through now in the season as it relates to being in the home, in the heart, and from the pulpit. From the scriptures that people throw at you when you have a conversation about your marriage and you're looking for, I don't know, just someone to talk through some encouragement. And one of the questions that I do have is, how many of you that are watching, and me and you, Tony, we can answer this question as well,
Okay.
were taught that leaving a marriage means failing God before it means anything else?
I'm one
Yeah, yeah,
that it me and just speaking from experience, not only are you taught that, you're taught that that's how you're supposed to feel. You feel like a thank you, Jasmine. You feel like a failure.
yeah.
Jasmine said me.
Oh,
You
yes,
feel like
yes,
you feel like a failure. You feel like, you know, I'm not good. Even though the situation is not good, you find yourself wanting to stay in that situation because you don't want to be judged or you don't want to be looked at as a failure,
right.
especially if you both were heavily involved in church. Now that
Yeah,
I've seen so very often, where it's a whole lot of it's a group or a couple, I should say, heavily involved in church, and they are tired, they're exhausted in their marriage, but yet they
hmm,
stay because of what we just talked about, what you just mentioned.
yeah, yeah. And then another thing that comes to mind is like something that I thought about within my marriage was breaking that generational curse. Because
Mm,
along the lines, it's been divorce, 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 and it's like, no, we're gonna see this through. We're gonna make it, and it's like, no, can't give up just yet. Um, you don't want to feel like you failed, and you didn't fix this for the generations to come. But then I
yep.
had to snap out of it and be like, they got to figure it out because
This is my life.
yes, like I don't know if I'm gonna be the one. I don't know if I'm gonna be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I always would question, like, you never know what people are going through inside their marriage or going through in general, and you see and you hear people, oh, they got a divorce or we're getting a divorce. It's like from the
Yes.
outside looking in, it's like, why? So
Yes.
that was always
Yes.
my thing. Like, y'all look good to me, like
Yes.
nothing is going on, but you hear these things and then years later you go through some stuff and you be like, yeah, I see.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
I know exactly what they. Yes, yes. It's funny you would mention that because I just had a conversation with a group of women, and one of the ladies were saying to the other lady, I had no idea. I had no idea that's what you were going through.
Yeah.
You guys look so perfect. I mean, you were the couple. So
Right.
I had no
Right.
idea. And so it's so interesting when people on the outside, they look in and they're judging or they're making some assumptions about your marriage that are not true.
Yeah.
And, because the person, their response was like, yeah, this is what was happening. And she was saying how she she did a lot more than people realize to continue to portray that image, to make it look good. So that was just interesting to have that conversation, and to know that that's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jasmine said, "Woo, y'all saying everything I went through." Thank you
Oh,
for saying that,
yeah.
Jasmine,
Thank
because I
you.
think it's universal. I think it's almost universal that you find yourself in this situation, and yes, you care about the person. You would even say you love that person, but you know that it's time to exit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'm going to jump into some contradictions in a
Okay.
marriage. So, y'all let me know in the comments if y'all can relate what y'all thinking now. So, you can love someone deeply and still feel exhausted by the life you built together. That's one. Another one is you can be loyal and still feel like you lost yourself. I can relate to that one for sure.
Mhm.
You can stay committed and still feel emotionally disconnected.
I would
Yes.
say, from my own experience, all of the above.
I was just about to say ABC.
Yep,
Yes.
all of the above.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the most hurtful thing to me was losing self. That was hurt. Like giving my all and running on autopilot and doing everything for everyone, and trying to make everyone else happy. But then it was like, okay, well, what about me?
Mhm.
And
But
going
Jennifer, do
through
you think you recognize that you were losing yourself when you were losing it, or only when you stepped back?
only when I step back. Yeah.
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 That's why, and I asked that question because that was my experience. That while I was in the midst of it, while I was doing everything, while I was keeping the house, while I was, planning this and doing all the heap of things that I was doing, I didn't realize that bits and pieces of me were dying daily.
Yes.
I didn't realize it until I stepped out. And I think we talked about this probably on the podcast, but I didn't realize that I was doing and even eating the foods that he liked versus stuff that I liked.
Mm,
And it was okay, but I was doing it because he liked it, not necessarily I liked the food. It was just to keep the peace.
yes. Yeah.
So it was,
Jasmine says it's like we were on two different pages when I look back.
yes,
Yeah, I can relate to that. I can
yes,
definitely relate
yes.
to that. Yeah.
And in my case, I would even say all the way down to the music choices, the movie choices. I was
Mm,
like, I really do like scary movies. No, you don't, but I really do.
right. Right. Yes. And that emotional disconnection, like
Mhm.
that's another thing that got me. You
What do
know,
you mean?
just being emotionally disconnected. You know, from my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you try to, like I said, I had that mentality, like we're gonna break these generational curses. Like, so I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
committed, to the marriage.
Sticking with it.
Yeah, but that emotional disconnect, that was there.
Uh-huh. I see Jasmine said it's like we were on two different pages when I look back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
How does it make you feel, Jasmine, to look back and know, I don't know how much time had passed, but to look back and know that um, for an X amount of time, you really were on two different pages. How does it make you feel? Do you feel like you lost something? Do you feel like, okay, I'm woke up now, I can move forward? I'm just curious.
Okay. She wants to join, so I'm gonna let her join so she can
Okay,
answer.
okay.
Hey,
Hey,
Hi, Jasmine.
how are you?
hi. I'm doing good. I'm here with my baby. I'm breastfeeding, but I wanted to join because y'all are hitting on all the points. I can
Mhm.
relate so much with what I'm currently going through. I'm going through a divorce, and
Okay,
um, it's been. He actually filed while I was pregnant with my baby.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So it's been a couple of months, and we have a hearing coming up on Monday.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch the question you were just asking me.
I was wondering, how did it make you feel to look back and realize that you were on two different pages? How does it make you feel now? Like, are
I,
you relieved to say, you know what, I'm finally can see, or is there a sense of loss? Like all that time has passed, and this whole time, to realize that I was on different pages for this length of time with someone. I mean, I'm just curious how it made you feel.
I think I felt all of those things at different times
Mm-hmm,
during
mm-hmm,
the healing process, but
mm-hmm.
it's just the clarity that you get once you like remove yourself from that situation because the first thing that I did was I stopped being intimate with him. And just from
Yeah.
doing that alone, I was able to start seeing the things that I was not paying attention to before. But I've had those moments where I felt like I wasted so much time because I ignored things that I shouldn't have been ignoring. Then I felt sad because it's like I felt played, used, and then at times I felt relieved because it's like I'm no longer in that situation and I see it for what it really truly was. So I've gone through all of those different emotions, and sometimes it just goes in a circle. Of like I'm feeling one thing one day, and then the next day I might be feeling something else. But I think that the clarity and the relief it's been the best feeling out of all of those because
Mm,
I'm no longer wasting time. And I'm 38 years old. And I was
mhm,
in that relationship for 15 years.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I've wasted enough time. And
mhm.
I thank God because I could have been in my 50s and 60s, and I was a stay at home mom. And
Right.
he could have abandoned me in my later years, and it would have been even harder to recover. So,
Mhm.
I'm happy that I now can see it for what it was.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing
thank you
that.
for sharing.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. Just
Yeah.
listening to y'all has helped me like to understand that I'm not alone. There's
No.
so many women that are speaking on these topics now, and I thank God for social media because
Mhm.
imagine our grandmothers, our great grandmothers that
Yes.
they didn't have this outlet
Right.
and
Yes.
they felt alone. I couldn't even imagine. I had to lean on my family, lean
Mhm.
on God. It was a very difficult process to go through, especially,
Mm.
Yeah.
being pregnant. I think I was around 30 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just discarded like nothing,
Mhm.
after all that time. So, and, I think us as women, we're the ones that actually keep the relationships going as long as they do because we're
Usually.
putting in all this energy, we're putting in all this time, we're forgiving, and meanwhile, they're just laid back chilling,
Yep.
going to work
Yeah.
and thinking that that is all that it takes to sustain.
Exactly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
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 If you guys were
So,
passing by and you caught that, she said, going to work. Because I know back in the day, at least my day, that was one of the main requirements. He got a job.
Right.
And it's a real clap happy if he got a very good job.
Mm.
Right. Right.
But that's not enough. And it never has been. And I'm so glad Jasmine is sharing her story.
Yeah, and you mentioned something, Jasmine, about you felt like you wasted time and these experiences, and that was something similar that I was feeling as well, and then I had to come out of that because I was like, I'm not going to feel bad for loving someone deeply. I'm not, because I know in my heart I did the right thing. You know, I'm a good person. I was a good wife. And it just so happens we just not
Didn't work
connecting the
out.
same anymore, So yeah, that's one thing. I'm like, I'm not gonna be hard on myself, because I stayed in it that long or because I love the way I did. Yeah.
And you said something about generational curses.
Yes.
That was a major thing for me. It was like I wanted to break all the generational curses because y'all know, as not just women, but Black women, we have a lot of things that we want to, those cycles that we want to break. And the
Right.
biggest thing for me was my kids because we have three kids together. And it's like, man, just the same curse fell upon
Mm-hmm.
us. No matter how hard I tried to break that curse, it's still the same cycle.
Yeah.
And it just makes you wonder, like, how we could put so much into it, and then them, it's like they don't even care. It's almost like they just do not even care. Once that mask falls off and they're showing their true colors, it's like you could just walk away so easily. Whereas
Mm,
us, it's very rarely a decision that's just made impulsively,
right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah. That's so true. I came across a post the other day that I wanted to read and talk about, and they were talking about, what's going on with women nowadays in midlife and leaving their marriages. And it says, here's the conversation no one wants to have out loud. A generation of women, especially Black women, have done the work. The therapy, the healing, the rebuilding of our relationships to our bodies, our money, our mothers. And too many of the men we sit across haven't.
Mm,
And I was like, that's true.
yeah.
That is so true. And I wanted to
It is.
ask you, Tony, from a therapist perspective, what is your
hmm
thought about that?
I think it is true. And I think it's changing, but it's a slow change. We
Mm-hmm.
still have some taboos associated with going to therapy or realizing the benefit of therapy. So yeah, I do believe it's true. I do believe and I don't even think it's just Black men. I think it's men in general have a harder time
Oh yeah.
being vulnerable and saying, "This is where I am. This is where I'm what I'm going through." So yes,
Mm-hmm.
I do believe it is true. I want to go back to the generational curse deal, and I know if our friend Nakisha was on here, she'd
I
talk
know.
about that because
Yeah.
it's not really. I don't believe it. It really is a generational curse. I think if anything, staying in a bad situation is more of a curse than coming out of the situation, saying that I've had enough, that this is not healing for me, this is not helpful for me. I think that's more of a curse than you saying, you know what? Yeah, my mom didn't make it to 20 years. Yeah, my aunt, there's a whole history of divorces in my family. But you know what? I got to do this for me. So I think if we want, when we get in that mindset of, oh, this is a curse, I want to be a curse breaker and stay in, I think that does more harm and detriment to us than than walking away from a situation that is no longer healthy.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But it's like I going through it, I didn't see that, you know. But now, on the flip side, it's like, yeah, I get it.
And you know,
Yeah.
the scary thing is that they probably like, do they see it from the same way that we see it once we leave? Do they know the entire time that they're just, I guess, acting or not really being authentic about what they see in the future with us and stuff? Like we're looking at it through a different lens than they are. So is it really truly that they have a mask on and they're just presenting themselves a certain way, or is that who they truly are and we just didn't see it, or we chose to ignore it, or were they faking the entire time?
I don't think so, Jasmine. I don't think so. I think women will stay in a situation a lot longer, but men usually when they have made up their mind to move on, they move on very quickly. Um, that has been my experience, not just counseling people, but my own personal experience that we'll even try it again, you know. I've heard of people who have had a divorce and have been separated for years and decided that they were going to try it again. Usually the woman, she's pushing it, and they go back in and they end up getting a divorce again.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's a mask that they wear. I think when they go in. It's a transaction for a lot of men. They go in expecting certain things, and when those things are not met, they have decided that they're ready to move on. I think for women, we go in not necessarily expecting certain things, but our tolerance level is a lot more when certain things are not met. We'll make up excuses for the person, saying, "Oh, you know, he's okay," or "It's all right," or and we change our behavior. We adapt in order to pacify versus the other way around. Usually men don't adapt as much, but we will adapt.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
then you mentioned something about wearing a mask. I don't think it's so much them wearing a mask. I think a lot of the times is us as women, we see the habit or we see the behavior and we're like, he's going to change, you know,
Yes, yes, that
he's going to
potential.
change. He's going to change.
Yep.
Yes, because we do see that potential. You know,
Yep.
we do have that tolerance, you know, and then that's why we get to this stage and age and we like the hell with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I'm not waiting
Mm-hmm.
around anymore. I'm done, you know. Um, yeah.
And Jennifer, I know you've heard me say it before. Women usually marry uh, and they see the potential in the man. And so they'll go in and marry someone and say, "Oh, you know, he will become." And
Right.
men are usually the opposite. They go in saying, "This is who she is, and this is who I want her to stay." So, you know, 10, whatever many years in, a man is still looking for you to be that same woman that he married, a girl that he married. But we go in, we're usually looking for him to change and grow, realizing that growth is necessary.
Yes, yes, and full transparency that, you know, change, that was part of the issue, you know, in my marriage because, you know, like I said, I'm very transparent about my journey, and I was a teen mom. I had my first child when I was 15 years old. I'm now 45 years old, and um, I worked. I struggled to finish high school. I struggled to go to college. Then I got married and I had some other children and was like, now that they're grown, and I have time to breathe and, figure out who Jennifer is, I'm not that same person he married, you know, because I want to experience different things in life now. And sometimes they just don't understand or willing to accept that change in you. And that creates issues.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're in the window, as we like to say, the conversation is deep, is good, and your piece in it just will make it better. And we're talking about contradictions today.
Yeah, you made a note about the godly wife.
Mm.
So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. The godly wife. Like, you shouldn't feel lost in your marriage. God,
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about
Mm-hmm.
that?
Again, we have been programmed and taught that this is what it means to be a godly wife. Even the TV shows, some of the TV shows we look at that are supposed to be wholesome, they portray a godly wife who, one, doesn't disagree too much with her spouse. And if she does it behind closed doors. Always readily available for her spouse, especially where the intimacy piece is concerned. Also, always ready to bear all for her spouse. Even when he falls apart, she's there to catch him. But
Mm,
rarely do you see it the opposite,
mm,
on the TV shows that are portrayed.
mm.
Who falls apart? I mean, who's there to catch her when she falls apart? This godly woman. Who's there?
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yep. So you see her, and you know what's coming to my mind, and some people probably don't even remember this. Little House on the Prairie.
Oh my God, that's so
That's so
old.
old, right? But that's what I'm thinking about. Because
Yes.
if you look at those shows that are considered Christian, that are considered godly, especially those godly channels that you may, see, it's usually those that they're running. They're running shows where the woman is very demure. She's, very supportive. And yeah, she talks to her friends when she has an issue, but she doesn't talk to her spouse when she has an issue.
Mm, mm,
And
yeah.
that's not a real partnership
Mm-hmm.
in my mind.
Yeah, that's the thing they're pushing heavy now is the submission and the be his peace.
And the
Ooh,
what was the last
ooh.
one?
Be his peace.
Be his peace.
Wow.
Yes, I've been seeing a lot of posts about being his peace, especially from a man's perspective. And it's like, I'd be like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you? Because,
Right.
like we talked about, we carry that emotional, we carry the kids, we carry the house, making sure you're good. And I don't know if it was you or Jasmine that mentioned that y'all go to work and come home. Like, what is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
where's my peace? Let's give each other peace. Let's be each other's peace. Don't just want it, give it too. That's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And half the time they can't even find peace within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They got
Yeah.
so many issues that not even coming into the relationship already as whole as possible. They're so damaged, a lot of us are, but you can't expect peace from somebody else and you're not even, at peace with yourself.
Well said. Well
Yes.
said.
Yeah, we all have to
So
do that internal work. We all do.
so what is it called? The give him peace or be his
Be his
peace.
peace.
Be his
So does
peace.
that mean when he comes in, he wants to come into a peaceful house, or when he's around you, don't bring up anything that's going to be conflicting. It needs to be a peaceful environment. Is that what that means? Be his peace?
That's what I'm hearing.
I still
Okay.
haven't
Okay.
figured. I don't know if they ever gave us a very clear cut answer on that. I'm thinking that
Mm-hmm.
it's more so they want you to just be quiet and accept
Oh.
and accept what they're doing and their behavior. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this, that, and Jasmine even touched on it. If you don't have internal peace, if you don't have your own internal balance, then it's going to be very difficult for you to really find peace externally. Because you will always need to change locations, and what that means is you'll always need to change partners.
Maybe that's why
So
they do. They do.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that has a lot to do with it. When you are
Hmm.
not at peace with yourself, yeah, you may go to one place and it feels peaceful for that. It feels peaceful for that moment, but then something sets you off, and you figure, okay, let me go try a different place, and then a different place. So yeah, trying to be anyone's peace without you having your own sense of peace, I think is just a disaster waiting to happen. That's my
Mm.
belief.
Yeah.
If you're using someone else to find your peace, then that is not a very good, healthy way to live.
Yeah. That's like
I
what I
hadn't
say
heard
about
that. Be
happiness.
his peace. Okay.
Yeah. That's like what I
Yeah.
heard about happiness. I just, want him or her to make me happy, and it's like it don't work that way. You have to be happy within yourself, and then someone else can add to that happiness. You can't depend on somebody to make you happy. That just ain't right.
Yep.
Yeah, and being in a marriage for so long, it teaches you, these things that people be throwing out there. It has little to do with what's gonna keep a marriage going. Happiness. I mean, honestly, when you start paying bills together, you got kids, you got all these different things going on. Of course, you want to be happy, but happiness comes and it goes.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
nobody's happy all the time. What keeps us together when we're not feeling that happy? And do we even need to be together? It depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
Well said. Very
Yeah.
good point. And
Yeah.
those are questions that you find yourself asking when you start to wake up, when you start to realize something's off, and you realize that it might be this relationship that I'm in. Something's off, and it might be this.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, if you don't mind me asking, what was the point that you knew that it was time to move on or it was over?
That's for
You want to
both
go
of us.
first, or you want me to go first?
That's for both of y'all.
Okay, okay. Um, it was a lot. A lot happened for me, Jasmine. But I think the biggest moment was when I was told that I could not start my sex toy business inside the home. That was the that was the biggest thing for me. That, and it was seen as being just, and I'm coming from a situation where it was a lot of religion, a lot of God talk. So that was the wake up call for me. That I realized that I was in a situation where someone felt the need to tell me how to live my life, not as a partner, not as a suggestion, but as a command. And maybe
Mm.
it had been like that for the entire time, but I guess I just woke up and said, "Wait a minute, no and hell no." You're not gonna tell me this is what I have to do or I need to do, and it's not something that's detrimental to me or you, but you want to tell me how I need to operate and run my life. I think that was one of the. I had many, but that was, I think, the first one that I can recall.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, for me it was so my husband had taken a job that took him out of state. So he was home a couple of days out of the week, and that created um, some distance with us when it came to the relationship. And then, how I also mentioned that, my kids are older now, and, I'm shifting and learning who I am and growing and trying to do different things. And it was like we was always bumping heads about it, you know. And then that emotional, God, what's the word?
Disconnect or
Yes. The emotional disconnect. It just started getting wider and wider. And it's like, okay, enough is enough. Um, but I will say this. Um, over that period of time, we really had some deep conversations. And, neither one of us want a divorce. Like I say, no one goes into a marriage and wants a divorce. But my
no,
thing,
not usually.
yeah, so my thing is, you know, um, I can stay and I can continue and I can work on this, but I'm not going to stay if you're not going to work on yourself.
Yeah.
This has to be healthy all the way around. I'm growing and I'm changing. We're not the
Mm-hmm.
same people we were 30 years ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be real about that. Number one. And then number two, respect the fact that, I've grown and the kids are grown and I'm trying different things. But not only am I trying different things, I'm trying to include you as well. You know, so, but it's been hard. It's been a battle. I'm not gonna lie, but like I said, we're coming to a point where we can have that understanding and that communication, which is positive. So, if y'all passing by, um, we are talking about marriage, great divorce, and the contradictions. And what no one talks about, what we women are going through in the home and our hearts, and from the pulpit, because a lot of people base marriage on the scripture. And, when you tell them that you're going through something in your marriage, they want to, throw the book at you.
Right.
Um,
What God has put together, let no man put asunder.
there you go. There you go.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about emotional labor and shrinking.
Okay.
That submission, that silence, and the woman who disappears inside her own marriage. Um, when I did my post about marriage that I talked about earlier, one of the biggest patterns I saw in responses was people saying how they were carrying that emotional weight of the relationship, and shrinking themselves to keep the peace. And when I say shrinking to keep the peace, that means you're not really expressing how you feel, you know, or what you need in fear of that retaliation or that argument or that gaslighting or whatever it may be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And being the one who always brings up hard discussions,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not, I know for me, I've been through that, I experienced that, and that weighs heavy on you, that weighs you down. That's that that stress, because you're holding all of that in. And then
Mm.
when you holding it all it in and you looking at that other person, it's like, well, if you only knew, but I'm gonna keep this in so I can keep the peace. And that's not healthy.
No, it's not.
Um,
No,
and
it's
Yeah.
then it's
not.
it's it's framed as, oh, you're nagging,
Yes.
or
Yes.
you're starting arguments and disagreement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Because
the
Yeah.
they
other
don't
thing
want to
about,
have the.
oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. They when you and then it's never resolved. So when you bring it up multiple times, it's like they don't understand why it's not why are you bringing this up again? But it was never resolved. You never
Exactly.
addressed the issue and got to the root of the problem. That's why it keeps and I would say it in those very simple plain terms, and it's still like it goes straight over the head. Can't understand what I'm saying. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's not resolved.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And it's very true. And I've seen it over the years where couples they decide that they cannot have those hard conversation. And like you just mentioned, Jasmine, it's usually the man where he cannot have those hard conversations, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. So you bringing it up and you're being told that you're nagging. It's not that I'm nagging. I'm bringing up the same conversation I just tried to have with you a week ago, whatever the conversation may be about. And so they find themselves saying, I don't want to talk about that right now, but when is the right time to talk about it? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And so we are told and taught, especially in my generation, that it's better for us to be that Proverbs 31 woman. And I don't know if you guys have ever read that. I have
Hmm.
taught it. I have tried to live my life once upon a time being this woman who kept silent and I guess be the peace. I was trying to be his peace when I was in a world of turmoil, when I didn't have peace within me. And so it just was not working. So when I think about the Proverbs 31 woman, I think about basically she's a woman who is working day and night. She's quiet and she submits. She's submissive. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a time and a place to be submissive in any relationship. But at the same time, when you're talking about a marriage relationship, it should be a partnership, not one that I'm constantly submitting to you and what you
Right.
want while neglecting my own needs and my own desires. And
Yeah.
I think that's where people get it mixed up. That when they look at this Proverbs 31 woman, who can be, I think it says something like, who can find her? The truth is, I don't know if anyone can really find the woman who
Right.
I'm serious. I mean, cause she working with wool and flax. She working with it. She's sewing all times of night. She she has a business that she running. She got kids that she taking care of. She's quiet. I don't know who can find her. If Proverbs 31 woman, if you're out there, please let's have a conversation. I want to have a conversation with you because I have tried to be that woman, and I realized that I was working my damn self to death trying to be this woman that I was not.
Right.
And
And
you know
yes, I'm
what?
making light of it, but at the same time, I think these are things that we need to talk about and look at and realize that that is not realistic to be that type of woman in any relationship. And I know it's very common now where people are talking about being the trad wife. I think Nikisha had brought that up, Jennifer, the trad wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're trying to be this traditional wife, but we are in 2026. So is the traditional wife might need to, it has to change. It's not
Yeah. It
might need
has
to change.
to.
It has to.
It has to.
And who was that was describing the Proverbs 31 woman? Was it Solomon? Was it somebody? It was a third party, right? It wasn't even
It,
her.
right. It was a king.
So can we hear from her?
Yeah,
Right?
hello. I, I mean, because I don't know if you guys ever read the story. I'm like, she tired as hell. It talks about
Right.
how she's up, she's looking, she doing them, she going to the merchant and she cooking and she portioning and then she taking care of her household with her servants and I'm like, goodness, she even making her bed coverings. I'm like, ooh, I don't
And
think
that
this
was from
woman.
a man's perspective when you think about it.
Yes,
He's the one who was saying
yes,
all of that. We've all been that woman. But
Yeah.
can we
yes.
hear from her and get her
Mhm,
side of the story? And I'm sure she would be saying some of the same things that we're saying right now.
Oh yeah.
mhm,
Oh yeah.
mhm. I don't know, Jasmine. I think I can speak for her because I tried to be her. She was tired as hell.
Yeah.
She was tired. She was
I
only getting 3 hours of sleep.
I tried to be her too. Well, I think we
Yeah.
all have. We
I
all
think we
have.
all
Yes,
have.
I
Yeah.
think we all have. Especially if you spent some time in church, you have tried to be the epitome of this Proverbs 31 woman who does everything, and I don't see where it says anything about what she does for herself. I'm
Mm.
looking at it now,
Mm.
and her kids. She take care of kids, her servants, her husband, all of this, but it does not talk about her doing anything for herself.
Yeah. And then with that shrinking and that emotional, you know, conversations or whatever, it's like it amazes me how, you can bring those conversations up in the most delicate way, not to sound judgmental, but just, hey, can we have this conversation? Let's talk about it. And the conversation never gets resolved. And then you bring it up again and it's like the same pattern. But then they wonder why you get up and walk out the door. Like, why
Hmm.
you so surprised when I tried to have these multiple conversations with you and get some clarity or just let's have the same understanding and you didn't want to have those conversations. I was being too much or, whatever. And now that I'm
Mhm.
done having the conversation, like, whatever, okay, I'm out. Well, why?
Mhm.
Like, why?
My ex used to say, every day you wake up, it's a new day. That's the way he would try to get me to be quiet. I'm like, what?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, so don't bring up the old
Yeah,
stuff.
yes, it's a new
Oh, okay,
day. It's a
okay.
new day. So we
Mhm,
need to leave the past in the past. The past was yesterday. I'm trying
mhm,
to resolve something from yesterday,
mhm,
and I have to look at it in the past.
And how can you
mhm.
leave the past in the past when in the present there's still patterns?
Right,
From the past.
Ex- right.
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 Like break the pattern and I'll forget about the past, because I ain't got nothing to go by.
Do y'all think that men and women just aren't compatible?
I don't think that. I think it's
Yeah.
you finding that
Mhm,
compatible person.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And knowing that even if they are compatible, you're different people. So
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
will be some things that come and that are, may be in conflict, but it doesn't take away from you deciding that you're going to be in this relationship as long as you can be committed in that relationship. And I think and this is my take, okay? This is not something that I've, been taught or learned or from in terms of therapy, but my take is that because we are different, too often we look at other either scriptures or other people as a model, and we try to pattern ourselves from that model. So we'll look at like the Proverbs 31 woman, and we use that as the model for what it means to be a godly woman. And we do that in the marriage too. We'll look at a marriage and say, "Oh, I want my marriage to be just like Obama and Michelle." But not knowing that Obama and Michelle, they got their own race to run. They got their own marriage to make work for them. So I think it's some universal tools that all marriages can use, but there's no universal marriage.
Yeah.
So when some people have open marriages, and to me, I figure if that works for them, it works for them. It doesn't work for you, then you move on. So like I said, I believe that there are some universal tools that work inside marriages. One being communication, having an open line of communication, but I don't think there's a universal marriage that says that this is the model and this is how all marriages need to be patterned after. That I don't believe.
Right. Yeah. And how they say opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because in one area I may be weak, and then that other area, that person is stronger than me, but that's where we connect and help each other.
Right.
Yeah. For y'all newbies in the room, we're talking about marriage, great divorce, and the contradictions. From what us women should talk about or are talking about, what we go through in the home, in our heart, and then also from the pulpit, those scriptures that, get thrown out there about marriage.
Mm-hmm. And we take it as being fact. We take it as being a must. And if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen to you. You don't follow it and think certain things happen. They will say, well, that's why it happened, because you didn't follow this. You didn't pattern your life after the Proverbs 31 woman. That's why you live. Your life is like it is.
And y'all know who got tied up into that? Like we did, Tina Campbell. Y'all know her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Because she
Yeah.
forgave all that infidelity and all the stuff that he was doing. And I don't know what's going on now or why he filed for divorce, but I think she's an example of that, trying to be a Proverbs 31, and people around her were telling her she needs to try to work it out. And, she came from a highly religious family.
Yep.
And now look.
Yep. Yeah, and I just did a post on that. I don't know if you saw it, Tony, but I put my 2 cents in on that whole situation. Yeah, because I've been there. I've been in the same situation Tina was in with infidelity in my marriage. And around that same time it came out with her was around the same time it was happening with me. And on my end, there was a child born from that infidelity. And I did choose to stay. I chose to forgive and to work on my marriage. And one of the things I said in the post is like people would say, "Oh, you're a better woman than me because you stayed," and blah blah blah. It ain't about being a better woman. I think there's a lot has to do with where you are on your journey in your life. Whether you make that decision to stay or whether you make the decision to sign the papers, the choice is yours. And I'll say every day I have no regrets for making the decision that I made.
Right.
Like, and when I made my decision, I didn't have people in my ear. It was my decision. I didn't tell nobody what I was going through. I've always said I'm a big journal person. I journaled, I prayed about it, and I made that decision on my own without family, without friends, without, hearing my husband in the background. That was all me, but then hearing and seeing what she's going through now, it's like, that is like a slap in the face because she forgave and they built this brand around forgiveness after infidelity. And I think they did an album and did some tours or whatever, and it's like 13 years later, now you want to leave? Like, why ain't you just leave when it happened? Why, but that is what it is,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
feel for Tina and what she's going through, but she's a strong woman. She has
Mhm.
strong family. So yeah, but I get it.
Mm, yeah. And again, like I had started out talking about Jennifer, in some cases, we are still on the outside looking in.
Exactly.
People will say, oh, I even had my sister say, I had no clue. You never, you never said that there was an issue.
Right.
We came over all the time and it didn't, there was no signs, she said. But they don't know the intricate parts that were happening. They don't know the details. And I think when we look out at other people and we look at their marriages and say, why did he come back? Or why did he just, or why did she even accept him? I think that's a matter between the two of them. It's
Yes.
really, it's really nobody's business but theirs on why they
Exactly.
decided to make it work after so many years had passed. I don't know. I know you've heard that saying, the heart wants what the heart wants. Maybe that's
Yeah.
part of it. And I think we have to allow people to change when they change. Sometimes we want to
Yes.
keep people in a box and say, this is who you are and this is how you will always be. But in truth, we are growing organisms. We're changing and shedding. I think it's so at every 30 days, we really are really new, meaning the cells in our body, the skin has changed, the skin has shed, and all kind of things have happened where we're not really the same person, but yet we expect a person to be the same person that they were when we married them. And the truth is that's not the case. So Jennifer, we're going to pause right there, or
Yeah, you want to pause and make part two next
yep,
Thursday?
yep,
Okay.
yep, yep.
That works for me. That works for me. But before we go, I do want to put a plug in. I just recently published my third novel, which is called I Choose Me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the window and you've been listening, then I'm pretty sure you can relate to the character in this book, because she herself is going
Got
through
my
a.
copy
Yeah!
too.
Thank you. So the character is going through midlife. Her youngest child is going off to college. She's married. She has 3 kids total, and she's asking herself, who am I outside of the roles that I've been playing as the wife, as the mother, even as an employee, right? And she has to make some tough decisions when it comes to her career and even her marriage. Like, do I want this? Do I still want to be in this? And can I really sustain this with the woman that I'm becoming? So it takes you on that
Mm.
journey of her having that realization, making the decision, and then what happens in her life, when she makes that decision to walk away and to choose herself. So,
Wow.
yes,
Very
yes,
nice.
thank you. And this book was a labor of love, let me tell you, because a lot of what the character Alex, I put a lot of what I was feeling and a lot of what I was seeing other women go through and feel into this book. So it is very, very relatable.
Mhm.
Yes.
Get your copy.
Yes.
I got mine. I'll give you guys an honest review when I finish it, but I got my
Yes,
copy of I
please.
Choose Me.
Yes.
So get your copy of I Choose Me by Jennifer Johnson.
Thank you. Yes. And if you enjoyed this conversation, then you will enjoy the conversation we have next Thursday,
Yes.
7 o'clock. We're going to have a part two. We're going to keep this discussion going because, like me and Tony said, You know, a lot of women are feeling this, a lot of women are going through it. And, you know, let's have that conversation. Let's be a support for each other. And most importantly, let it be a non judgmental zone, because it's not about judging, it's about experience and life that we go through. And you might hear or see something that may help you in your own journey. And that's the point of sharing.